Larson, Senator Erdman, Senator Smith. Hey, did I get all the senators?
Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Breezy, sorry.
You stand behind me. So we've got a great support from a number of senators here. And then we have a number of other speakers that are going to be talking today as well. So I'm not going to do them in the order they're going to talk, so everybody knows that. But we got Deb Gangwish. You got to be a senator there. Did you see that? Yeah. From Shelton, who's an ag producer, former Lieutenant Governor of Levon Heidemann. Dick Holman, who is representing the cattlemen, is here. We got Trent Luce hiding back there, who's a 6th generation rancher from Loop City. We got Tanya Storr, who's a Cherry County Commissioner. Of course, we mentioned Greg Eyeball already. We got some other folk, and Shane Greckel, who is an app developer and an ag producer from Bloomfield, who's going to be speaking today as well. So they'll all get a chance to come up and tell you a little bit about why this is so important. And as I mentioned, this is something that as I've traveled the state, I've gotten a lot of suggestions from people about how we can address property taxes when it comes to ag land. Certainly one of the things we've seen is that ag land valuations have gone up dramatically in recent years. And going back 2 years, we've been taking a number of steps to address it. So 2 years ago, we cut the growth of government from 6.5% down to 3.6% in my first budget. We cut that growth of the budget nearly in half. Because we did that, we were able to increase the property tax credit relief fund by over 45%. And that's important because the only way to have sustainable tax relief is by controlling spending. There's no silver bullet here. Fundamentally, the tax relief is the difference between spending restraint and revenue growth. And because we controlled spending, we were able to increase that property tax credit relief fund. Now last year, we came back with 2 other approaches, again, focusing on this idea of spending restraint, LB 958 and 959. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of those for the sake of time. LB 958 ended up being an additional $20 million a year into the property tax credit relief fund directed at ag land. LB 959 had a couple of expense provisions in it. One, not penalize school districts who dropped their levy below 95 cents in the TIOSA school aid formula. And another one, taking the qualified undertaking fund down from 5.2 cents to 3 cents. That qualified undertaking fund is a fund that school districts can go over their levy limit without a vote of the people, and is used for emerging health issues like mold abatement, for example. So we had a couple of expense provisions in that. So what you can see is in the first budget we had $204 million, $408 million in the property tax credit relief fund over the biennium. And for this upcoming biennium, we're going to be taking that up another $40 million over the course of the biennium, $20 million a year. And in my budget proposal, we kept that commitment. So now what are we doing? Well, now we're focusing on looking at that assessment system when it comes to ag land. As I mentioned, I've been traveling around the state, and this is one of the things that have been suggested to me as an idea on how we can address ag land valuations. Not only was it suggested to me, but this is something that has been in the Farm Bureau's policy statement and the cattlemen's policy statement for at least a decade. And the idea is that we want to move from the market sales assessment that we have today to an income potential assessment. That will be more fair because it ties those ag land valuations to how much actual income can be produced off of that given piece of land. And not only will it be more fair, it'll make it more predictable. It'll avoid some of the run-ups that we've seen in valuations in recent years, and we'll make a structural change to how we value ag land. This is a big deal. Not only will this be more fair to our ag producers, but this is more standard across ag states. South Dakota went to this a few years ago. North Dakota uses it. Kansas, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, and Ohio all have this. This is a way to allow our producers to be more competitive, especially with the producers in the surrounding states. And if you want to know how this works, talk to a producer who has land both on the Nebraska side and the Kansas side, or the Nebraska side and the Iowa side, or the Nebraska side and the South Dakota side. And they'll be able to tell you the difference in property taxes per acre that they're paying. So this is an important tool for us to be able to address how we value ag land to make long-term structural relief to be able to provide that property tax reform for our farmers and ranchers. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Senator Lydia Brasch, who's chair of the Ag Committee, to say a few words, and she's gonna turn it over to Greg Ibach, who is the Director of Agriculture, and then he will turn it over to some of the other special guests we have here today. Senator?
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor Ricketts. It is an honor to partner with you on ag property tax reform this session. For Nebraska, ag property tax reform is one of the keys to growing our state. High property taxes are crushing not only ag producers, but also Main Street in rural Nebraska right now. The Tax Foundation ranks Nebraska 39th in the nation for high property taxes, and ag has recently been carrying the vast majority of the load of our state's high property taxes. While ag property taxes continue to spike for all Nebraskans, ag commodity prices have significantly declined, leaving many ag producers struggling to pay a huge tax bill. By ensuring that taxes track more closely with the commodity prices, LB 338 would help give our ag producers the ability to pay their property tax bill when it comes due. This is good tax policy that will help protect our ag producers who feed the world. Many notable agriculture organizations support valuing ag land based on income potential rather than the current system. They include, among others, are the Nebraska Farm Bureau, the Nebraska Cattlemen, Nebraska Pork Producers, and the Nebraska Corn Growers. From an ag producer and family farm perspective, I can tell you that ag property tax relief will play an important role in keeping our state's #1 industry growing. As 1 in 4 jobs in Nebraska are tied to agriculture, and property taxes on ag land increased 137% from 2003 to 2013. The current system is crushing our farmers and ranchers. LB 338 would provide the long-term reform Nebraska needs to help prevent such spikes on future ag property tax increases. I look forward to working with Revenue Chairman Jim Smith and fellow Revenue Committee members and the entire legislature to deliver meaningful income and property tax relief for hardworking Nebraska families, Nebraska ag producers, and business owners. I will now turn the microphone over to Director Ibach and a variety of ag producers who have come from across the state to share their stories with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Brasch. And while agriculture is appreciative and wants to recognize the governor and members of the legislature who over the past few years have worked to provide property tax relief, in the light of that property tax relief, we've still continued to see escalation in property values. Over the last decade, depending on the window or class of real estate, ag real estate you look at, those increases can be everywhere from 130 to almost 170% increase in property values. And at the same time, the mill levies have stayed constant, and so producers across our state have experienced severe increases in their property tax burden. So it's no surprise that as the governor travels around the state and I travel around the state, this is the #1 issue, even more than the current commodity prices that we hear from producers. Because while the commodity prices fluctuate, the real estate taxes stay the same. And so this is something that when we look around at the other states around us, just like the governor said, many states have moved a long time ago to an income-based approach to valuing ag land for real estate tax purposes. And so this gives us an opportunity to move to be consistent with states around us and also provide farmers and ranchers the opportunity to be taxed at the income producing ability or the present income producing reality of their farms and ranches. So welcome the opportunity to have some more ag producers share their stories with you. But we're going to be looking forward to not only agriculture, but agriculture organizations, but individual ag producers reaching out to their senators to try to encourage them and tell them how this will be a benefit to them on their operations and help them better adjust in lean years like the years we're experiencing right now with their real estate tax bill. So it's my pleasure now to invite former Lieutenant Governor, former Revenue Committee Chairman, former State Senator, Levon Heidemann to the podium.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Levon Heidemann. I'm a cow-calf producer down in southeast Nebraska, grain and soybeans also. Farm with my boy Brian. He's 26 years old. He came back to the farm, and he's helping me, and eventually he wants to take over. Hopefully he'll be able to do that. Him and his wife Carly have two boys, Luke and Emmett. Luke is a year and a half old, and Emmett is 3 months, and we get to babysit him every once in a while, and we're out doing chores. Luke, who's a year and a half, he hears the skid loader and the tractor, and he runs through the window, and he stands up on his tiptoes, and he goes, "Room, room." You know he wants to be a farmer someday. And that's the reason I like LB 338, because it looks to the future and looks to how we're going to value ag land in the future. Farming has been good over the last several years. We don't see that right now, but farm income hit a historical high of $7.5 billion a couple of years ago. In 2015, it dropped to $4.5 billion. This year, they're projecting it'll probably hit $4 billion on farm income, almost half of what the historical high was. While incomes continue to fall, property taxes have climbed as ag land assessments reflect the highest sale years when commodity prices were high and ag income was high. As a former school board member, I will tell you that people in Nebraska do like local control. There's no doubt about it. They like to set policy on the local level, and they manage their property taxes at the local level. We still need to realize, though, the state government sets the rules of the game for property tax assessments. LB 338 is a common sense step Nebraska needs to take a look for the long term. By tying taxation more closely to income potential, we can ensure that our kids and our grandkids find the same opportunities that we had when we was farming and agriculture. As former appropriation chair, wasn't revenue, I was appropriation chair. I can tell you that what the governor and the legislature is going through right now is not easy. But I will say that I applaud Governor Ricketts for showing leadership in the area of property tax reform through this tough time, and he's going to do it without raising taxes. It's notable that the governor prioritized another $450 million direct property tax relief in the next 2-year budget cycle in the property tax credit relief program, even in the midst of this downturn. I want to thank the governor and the legislature for the money in the property tax credit relief fund and for the new part that starts this year that is directly straight toward ag. To make this a reality session, we all got to work together. Every egg producer, every farmer, every rancher, all the egg organizations need to come together and work with the legislature and work with the administration so we can get LB 338 to the governor's desk and he can sign it. We need to, as somebody who grew up in my part of the world, Larry the Cable Guy said, we need to get this done. We need to get it done for Luke and Emmett and everybody just like them. Thank you. Excuse me, I was supposed to introduce Tanya Stora.
You're fine. My resume is not near as impressive as yours, so that's all right. Hello, good morning. My name is Tanya Storr. My husband and I ranch in Cherry County, 4th generation ranchers. Our 5th generation is Emmett as well. An good old name. And I am also a commissioner in Cherry County, so I get to see this property tax crisis really from both sides of a coin, if you will. Sincerely appreciate Governor Ricketts and Senator Brasch and their efforts to bring this bill to the forefront. I've been coming to the Capitol for several years. I won't divulge my age, but it is so refreshing to have a governor that will sit down and talk about the property tax crisis at this point is what it is, and so thank you. Right now, of course, the property tax system is entirely tied to a real estate value, and valuations are driven by market forces that aren't always tied to income, as has been already brought out here this morning. In recent years, this system has resulted in spikes in land valuations. I think everyone in this room is aware of that, and some local government entities have taken advantage of that. Moving to an income-based approach with a valuation increase cap, which the governor proposes in LB 338, would help create greater predictability, would help slow the rise of valuations in the future, not only for ag producers, but also for those local government entities managing their budgets, like county boards. While Governor Ricketts, excuse me, and the legislature are working together to control spending this year, it is also critical for local governments to be good partners in controlling their spending and delivering property tax relief. And I am proud to tell you that Cherry County, we've worked very hard to do that. We hope to set an example for other taxing entities in our county and surrounding counties. We were able to reduce, I'll say that again, reduce our tax ask last year by 1%. To be able to reduce it at all, and in many cases for a taxing entity to just hold the line is somewhat, is not the norm in recent years. And so we encourage others to follow the governor's lead as we have done. Constraining spending obviously requires some tough choices and doesn't always make you popular with everyone, but it's the right thing to do when incomes are down for ag producers who are struggling to pay their tax bills, and in some cases borrowing money to have to do that. Addressing our property tax crisis will require the combined efforts of the governor, the legislature, and local governments across the state. And it will take several steps. LB 338 is one of those critical steps the state can take towards creating a fairer, more predictable way of valuing ag land for taxation purposes. So we will continue to work together, and I urge the legislature to adopt LB 338 and encourage Nebraskans to contact their state senators. You can find all of their full contact information on the Nebraska legislature.gov website, and being the part of the government that we are to be as the people, the citizens of the state are a critical piece to getting this legislation passed. So again, encourage you to contact your representatives, and we look forward to continuing to work with the governor and Senator Brasch. Thank you. Next, I would like to introduce my friend Trent Luce. He's a rancher, author, speaker, and advocate for agriculture.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Senator Brasch, and Governor Ricketts. Let it be said that I'm not speaking behind the governor's back. As Tanya indicated, which I've never done, I don't know why you're so humored. As Tanya indicated, my wife and I, Kelly, we ranch in Sherman County, Nebraska, just south of Luke City. I chose Nebraska. I grew up in Quincy, Illinois, left there in 1988. Too many governors in prison, which is an indication of the problems there, which is not relevant, Taylor, to what we're talking about here. But my wife, Kelly Keebers Luce, is fourth generation to raise a family on a farm and in Sherman County, Nebraska. So I'm really appreciative that we're here to even have this discussion, because it's time that we do something. We've heard the numbers Greg shared with us, between 130 and 170% increases in our ag land taxes, for property taxes. What do we have in Sherman County to show for that after a 10 years period of time? I talked to a school superintendent today in Ravenna on my way here. Our oldest daughter, Libby, graduated last year from Ravenna in Buffalo County. In the last 5 years, the state aid to the Ravenna Public School has gone from $170,000 a year to zero. So it looks to me like where we started is vitally important, with the governor talking about not only reducing the property tax